Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Grant Cameron, and I want to thank you for taking time from your valuable day to be with me. Today, I have a special guest, a guy I've known about for many, many years. I've never gotten a chance to interview him, and he's going to be on a cruise with me in September, going from Seattle up to Alaska. His name is Derrel Sims, and he is known as the Alien Hunter. He's the world's leading expert on alien abductions. He's done presentations in approximately 20 countries, including Japan, Slovakia, United States. His stuff is at the Roswell Museum. He's had made groundbreaking discoveries of alien implants and alien fluorescence, which I'm going to really ask him about. He has orchestrated 27 surgical interventions regarding alien implant removal. And as a former military officer and CIA operative, Sims has a unique insight into the alien organization, which he believes functions similar to an intelligence agency. He's also a compassionate and skilled counselor and a certified master hypnotherapist. Welcome, Derrel Sims. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you and find out what's going on here.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, Grant. You're a star in your own right, and I'm telling you, I'm delighted to speak with you here.
Beautiful. So let's go back to the beginning. There's only a couple of major people who have done the abduction stuff, and you may have been are you the first that got going with this stuff, or you've been doing it for a lot of decades? Go through your history of how you got involved in this aspect of the UFO phenomena.
The way I got involved in the UFO aspect, the best way to describe it is I was a captive audience. I was an abductee at 4 years old, so I kind of didn't have any choice in the matter. I was abducted at age 4 in Midland, Texas, and that's how I literally got started because of the contact event there. And my events went on for 13 years, from age 4 to 17, and they ended quite violently at age 17. And I thought, yay, it's over. Nothing else happened, so that was great. But the problem was I got married and we had a son and a daughter, and at age 6 they came and got my son, and that changed me from a concerned father to the alien hunter. I want to know what they're doing, who they are, what they're up to, and evidence seemed to me to be the best way to approach that.
Beautiful. Now, you mentioned starting as a child. Do you think that this was intentional, that you're picked, and maybe go through the idea of the family lines and how they move through family lines?
I certainly will. I think there's no question that that choice was on purpose. One of my brothers is an abductee. I think my father was. I certainly am. My son is. It's most of the boys in the family became abductees. The interesting thing is the women in the family were not affected at all.
Wow.
So why that is, that's anybody's guess. But we've found out that 45% of people taken are Native American, Indian, Irish, Scottish, Celtic, and even Basque from northern Spain. So there are very specific criteria of that particular groupings. And that there obviously anyone else can be taken, that 55% that's not those. So it's anybody's guess as to ultimately who, why, whatever. But our research from, especially since the time of my son getting taken, I went out I volunteered during the Vietnam War as a soldier during the Vietnam War, and the Central Intelligence Agency sheep dipped. Basically, what a sheep dip means, they dipped into the sheep and picked out what they wanted for what they were doing during the Vietnam era. And I ended up stationed at a top secret spy installation, basically, and got to know a lot about the tradecraft. And I did not agree with everything that went on there, and especially the history of some of the things we've done in the company. So I finally got out, and I spent the rest of my tour 1 year in Korea. And that's where I finished the rest of my tour as a senior military police officer. my point in saying all of that, I bring a heavy background, investigative background from the police point of view, from an intelligence point of view, and I've been a private investigator for over 40 years in the state of Texas.
Now, as your background in intelligence, can you have you worked on it, or can you speculate on the Central Intelligence Agency or the military's interest in this? Are they studying this? Are they is this a big thing that they need to learn something from?
Well, they certainly need to learn something from it. In my opinion, and I don't know everything. I wish I did. I could tell you everything, but the fact is that the intelligence community they provide cover stories for everything they do. A cover story is basically a lie. Roswell was a weather balloon, which is a lie. I mean, they did that on purpose because at least 60–70% of people will buy into it. So that keeps that narrative going for years without them having to explain anything. The fact is they're deeply involved. The Office of Naval Investigations in particular, Central Intelligence Agency for sure, and other intelligence agencies. And my viewpoint on that is simply from what information I do know on a personal level, which is minuscule compared to what people who've been in the intelligence community since I've gotten out after all these years. But I know for a fact, based on the way we did things in the tradecraft, lying and lying consistently is what we always did, and that's what they've been doing to Congress for the last 50 years. And it works real well because we keep giving them billions of dollars in black budget projects that we have no idea what they are, and we don't have any authority to find out what they are. And I can assure you they're deeply involved in the UFO phenomena for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which, of course, to find out who it is, what they're doing, and back engineer whatever they can, get the lion's share of that technology and use it, of course, in a warfare or a negotiated system. That's just the nature of the beast. That's the way it works. You know that.
Yeah. And do you think they've gathered a lot, or and that gets to the whole thing about who we're dealing with here and how much control we have? Are they running the show? Is like Jim Semivan always, when they ask him, he says, who's running it? And he said they are. Is that true?
The they, from my point of view, is the alien. The intelligence community is not running anything.
No, that's what I think Semivan referred to.
Thank you.
They're
running the biggest scam they possibly can on the United States and everybody else out there to get as much money as they can to do whatever it is they need to do. I mean, this is I'm not telling any big state secrets here, revealing that. It's a standard, and they will continue that because no one has challenged them yet, except a few congressional inquiries, which kind of doesn't mean anything. NBC News came to me here a while back and said, "We want you to give us a news story on exactly what's going on with this investigation Congress now. Tell us the big one." And I said, "Well, I really don't know what the big one is because I'm not involved in the intelligence community anymore, but I can tell you what I think based on an educated guess." And they said, "What's that?" And I said, "You're all being played for everything you're worth. And if you buy into it," I said, "then, if the show's going to continue, it has for the last 70 years. It's that simple." I said, you're walking into it. I said, the fact that there's an open investigation in Congress means nothing. I said, let me give an example. They said there's no real evidence, there's no real anything. Yet while they were saying these things, Congress was actually doing a congressional study on certain metals to find out what they were all about. Well, two of the metals they were studying were abductees of mine who saw the metals expelled from UFOs. How I know all about that is simply not because I'm super smart or anything like that. It's simply that my friends who were not supposed to tell anybody were calling me on the phone telling me what the results were. And I said, well, tell me something fun, and he says, well, on my metal, they applied some type of electronics to it in a particular way, and it floated in front of everybody. Oh. The metal is just floating around, and he said that caused no small stir among some of those folks. Like, what in the world is this stuff? So it's quite unique. It's interesting. It's fascinating. I have three pieces of UFO metal like that. One of them's never been studied yet, but it looks almost identical to the other two. And the other two are 30 years apart. And there are witnesses in every event. In this last event, I actually have a video of the UFO and the metal. So I'm pretty happy we're going to find about the same thing, same consistency with the other two pieces.
And so I've looked at the metal thing, and the question I always ask is, I mean, you come from wherever you're coming from, and then little pieces start falling off the flying saucer. Is there pieces falling off the flying saucer, or are they doing this on purpose?
The pieces that we have from the UFOs clearly were on purpose. They were expelled metal from the UFO. Why that is, I have no idea. My best guess is that they knew what they were doing and they knew somebody was watching. I mean, when the metal fell out on the ground in the first case with a man named Bob White, who's now deceased, the metal landed on the ground. He picked it up. It was white hot, but it was warm. It was not, it's very much similar to the shuttle tiles on the space shuttle. They're white hot, but you can actually touch them and they're very warm, but they will not burn you. So there was some interesting sidebar to that in that respect. But the metals are really odd, very unusual to say the very least. I'm hoping that Dr. Gary Nolan and or Avi Loeb from Harvard will be interested in looking at these metals. I also have some gold spheres that came out of a little girl's nose, 8 of them that were placed in a little girl's nose. They're about the size of pinheads, and yet I read the story. Avi Loeb's out there with his big ship dredging the bottom of the water looking for evidence of UFOs and so on. And the thing he digs up out there are gold spheres. So I'm wondering if there's any. So I've had mine looked at by York University with a senior metallurgist, and he was baffled. He said, I don't get it. He said, I can't replicate this in the laboratory. And he asked me privately on a private phone call, what do you think they're doing with this stuff? How does it work? So that I love the skepticism, but privately the skepticism tends to disappear.
Yeah. And the Bob White piece, I looked at that. I mean, that went to how many labs? 13, 14 labs or something like that?
Everywhere. And the thing that fascinates me, and I'm not into big conspiracy stuff. I'm just not much of a conspiracist. I like evidence, and I tell you, when I tell you something, you can go to the bank with it and you can go to court with it, and I can prove it. But if I can't prove that and I can't do that, then I'll tell you that's what I think, because I don't know. This is what I think. Belief has nothing to do with it. It has to do with what we prove. But in the case of Bob White's and the same thing with some of our implant stuff that was studied by Los Alamos and New Mexico Tech, sometimes those reports get fudged a little bit. In other words, you'll get the first copy will be great, but when they find out anything about it, it may be UFO related, they start amending reports. Things get a little weird. And I have, like in our case with the implant phenomenon, I have both sets of reports, the original and then the amended version when they found out it was alien related and the objects came out of the human body.
So of all these pieces you've done a lot of implant removals. Are any two pieces ever the same? Like in terms of whether they're thrown off the craft or whether they come out of a body? Is there any two pieces that are identical, or are they all different?
That's a great question, Grant. The actual answer is that the metals that come out of the UFO that are expelled in front of these witnesses all seem to be consistent with each other. I think they're probably almost the same metals. The fact is they're nothing related to the implants whatsoever. The implants are different as night and day. And again, one can imagine all kinds of reasons why that may be. We have the first cases in 1995. 1994, I was asked to do a medical presentation for 250 surgeons at John Muir Medical Hospital on medical complications of alleged human alien contact, implants. And in that presentation, I gave my view of what the alien implant phenomena was. Of course, needless to say, 250 doctors were not on board with all that, but I gave them something that I really wanted them to have concerning the implants. I said, I understand that this subject is off the charts. I said, but I want to give you my predictions on what we're going to find when we open the first implants. And the reason I'm telling you this in advance is so that you can debunk me if you want to. I said, so if I'm 100% wrong, go get me. I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
And what I told them initially was these objects that you're looking at here on x-rays, if they are alien, there'll be no chronic or acute inflammatory cells around the objects inside the human body. Now, needless to say, as doctors, they kind of didn't buy that, because if you get a splinter or an explosion from a hand grenade, there's an inflammatory response, either chronic or acute. That just happens with foreign bodies. It does. There was none present in the first implants. I said the second thing there will be no nerve cells. There will be nerve cells present and that are inappropriate to the affected area. The third thing will be the objects will be completely absent of technology. And the fourth thing is the objects that we're looking at appear to be metallic, plastic, ceramic. These implants, in my opinion, are going to be 15 to 50 years old. In other words, from that time, 1994, I thought they were probably about 40, 50 years old. And that was the history of them. I didn't think there were ones before that, in my opinion, because we certainly have looked and not found it. But anyway, the point is that when we did the first surgeries a year later in 1995, every one of those predictions came to pass. And the two doctors involved said, my God, how in the world could you know what we were going to find medically that was impossible? How could you know that? And I said, because I was an implantee in 1960 at age 12, and I was wide awake during my event. I overheard what they were going to do and what was going on.
Wow. And so why the implants? What's the bottom line on that? Why are the implants being put in?
Great question. I will, as I stated in the beginning, that I think the intelligence community and the alien phenomena work very, very similar, in as much as they love to use subterfuge, they lie, and they lie consistently, just like the intelligence community. Because the reason anyone would do that is because it's not ultimately that necessarily anybody is corrupt that does that. It just means they have something to hide. I mean, if you don't want anybody to know anything, you create your own scenarios, you create your own stories. And in my opinion, some of the things in the UFO community, and of course it takes the heat for this statement, some of the best investigators, not every investigator, only the best investigators, in my opinion, that are anywhere even remotely close to this phenomenon. If you are right on getting close to target, you're going to be spoon-fed your information, which will lead you in the wrong direction. That's just the way it works. That's the way the intelligence community and the alien works. And I think they've done that to a number of investigators. And that, as one lady said, well, wait a minute. You're one of the top investigators. I said, well, that's the rumor. She says, but how about you? And I said, young lady, I said, I'm not any better or any bigger or anybody else out there. I said, the point is, if I'm on target, they're going to give me whatever I need to get me off target. It's that simple. And if you've got an ego, it makes it so much easier. That's the intelligence community, how that works.
Wow. So you worked on these pieces now. Valet is rumored to have a large collection on Nolan. Are you working with these guys, and are they doing what they should be doing? Are they on the right track?
I think I'm very happy with what Gary Nolan is doing right now with the Valet and others. I'm very happy with Avi Loeb. Both these professors are spot on. They're doing the right thing. The thing I like about both of them is that they're not afraid of the intelligence community. The very first thing when I found out about Gary Nolan is I listened to a number of his interviews, and because I'm looking for the claw marks and the throat marks of the alien of the of the intelligence community around his neck, and he's absolutely stated publicly that a number of the pilots that have flown up against these UAPs have got lesions on their brain, and according to Tucker Carlson, he was told by Nolan and others reportedly that over 100 pilots are dead as a result of their contact.
Wow.
If that's true, and Nolan admits publicly he's gone to court in defense of these people because they are getting lesions and things like that on the brain. I think, which is a warning, you're getting too close. Like I said, they'll either give you what you need and lead you the wrong direction, or they'll do something else. But the most effective, of course, in my opinion, if I were a pilot or involved in the phenomena studying it, a lesion on the brain is a hint. How many more of those do you need before you quit?
Yeah, you haven't had any of those with the, because I mentioned the same thing about with the guys that Skinwalker Ranch that took home the hitchhiker. They were all special forces guys, armed and stuff like this. And so have you had any of this kind of stuff? What are you getting with the civilian guys who really aren't trying to chase them or shoot them down or that kind of stuff?
The I don't like to use the term UFO investigators meaning all people, because that's not really fair. That's like comparing people who kind of study some of the things you do to you. You can't make the comparison. You really can't. It's not about ego. It's about the fact is you're well adapted and you know exactly what you're doing. So I use the term best investigators, top investigators. The ones who have really spent some time on this. Those are the people that are going to get the most attention from the alien. Usually it works. The first round works. The first round, in my opinion, is the ego, and they'll give you what you need. I've told only a few people, a handful of people close to me, I said the first implant that I got, the first 2 cases, in my opinion, were provided for me. I believe that 100%. I have a number of reasons for that. The others I've found different ways and so on. But the first one, it's designed to lead you astray. It's designed to give you what you need to send you in the wrong direction. And if you've got an ego, it makes it all the easier. The second way to deal with someone that if you can't control them and they are on the right track and they will not let up is, of course, a lesion on the brain would be a nice hint. And I think enough people are in court right now suing the government because they never told them that this kind of stuff was going on. I mean, if it just happens, that's one thing. But if you're flying against UAPs and you come back with lesions on your brain or dead, that should have been told to you from the very beginning. Those pilots and other personnel should be made aware of that, and then they should make their own decision about whether they want to volunteer for that or not.
Yeah. Now, one of the key players that on the medical side is Kit Green. Have you had discussions with him, and did you get any insight from him as to what's going on?
Know Kit Green very well. He's a good man. Known him for a long time. He was actually in the Central Intelligence Agency when I was, and probably at the same place. But he's I don't make no comparison between me and Kit Green. He's a fine doctor. He's world famous, literally. He's on more medical boards than most people even know exist. And I like him. He's a good egg. He's helped a number of people, and of course, naturally, everybody out there has got their own views. He's one of the cabal, part of the cabal. He's whatever, Well, that's I don't know how to defend that. I don't know everything about him, but what I can say is that people that are making things public, in my viewpoint, if the information is accurate, I like them, because I think this phenomena, whatever it is, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever it is, it belongs to humanity. We need to know what's going on because it's happening to our planet and our people. So I think that's a good idea. So I'm happy with him, and he's provided us certain information and advice, which again, he's got his own area of research and everything. I'm not involved with organizations like MUFON or other organizations. I own the Houston UFO Network. We have been around for over 50 years, and I keep my stuff. I'm not secretive, but I am private. Most of my stuff, like the scientist asked me the other day, said, well, I love your work on implants. I said, so why do you do all this work on implants? I said, what makes you think that I'm stuck there? I said, that's just what I need for you to watch. I said, I have work that you don't know anything about, and it's not secretive, but it is private. And when we're ready to let it out, we will. It's just that simple. But I said the implant work is certainly important and all that. One of the effects, in my opinion, of the implants is to affect neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, potassium, etc. And basically, if you want to put it in terms of psychopharmacology, as one psychopharmacologist called me one night, and she said, Mr. Sims, if your information on dopamine and serotonin is accurate, with some of these abductees, they're finding those are altered by their doctors. The doctors found that to be true. If that's true, and the aliens done that, she basically, whoever's doing that can control you. They decide whether you're happy, sad, glad. I said, or suicidal. She said, or suicidal. She said, that scares me half to death.
Yeah, that's a lot of power. Talk a little bit about your work. You work with Dr. Roger Lear. Can you talk a little bit about your work there? And the question
Sure.
I saw when you talked about the implants being on the left side of the body. Is that true? And can you talk about that? Because that's the part that interested me.
I'll be glad to tell you. I was introduced to Roger Lear many years ago, 1995, by his best friend, a lady named Alice Levy, not very nice lady, and friend of both of ours. And she told him about some X-rays that I had. I was out in California at the time lecturing, and he said, "Well, that doesn't mean anything. That's just no, it doesn't mean anything." And there's 4 objects that don't mean nothing. And she said, "Well, he thinks they're probably alien implants." Well, I don't believe any of that. So we finally met, and he said, "Oh, okay. Well, that looks like there's a foreign object to me." And I said, "He said, well, why don't you? It looks like a surgical clip from an osteotomy." And I said, "That's exactly what I told the abductee in Houston." Then she showed me her medical records, and I talked to her doctor, and she said no previous history of surgery, but she does have a long and extensive history of alien abduction, and it goes on in the family, with the women particularly in that family. And he says, "Well, why don't you remove them?" And I said, "Well, one of them's in the foot, so I need a podiatrist," which he was. And he said, "Well, if you can get them up here and you fly them up and take all the medical bills and everything, I'll remove the object from the foot." I said, "Oh, deal." And then he brought an MD because I brought another abductee, had one object in his hand. So he and I asked him to come on board and to work with us. And anyway, we worked together for a couple of years, but then there were problems. Some more implants started to disappear under his care, and that was a no-no for me. The buck stops with me. I don't blame anybody. If there's a problem, it's me. I'm the problem. So I finally asked him to step down, and he did graciously. And he went his own way, and I went mine. But one of the things he did, he started writing a book on alien implants. I said, "Roger, I wouldn't do that." He said, "Why?" And I said, "You don't know anything about it." "I'm a doctor." I said, "You're not listening to me. You don't know anything about it." And he said, "Well, I wrote in there about all the implants on the left side of the body." I said, "Roger, love you like a brother, but here's the problem. I only showed you ones on the left side. I didn't show you the ones on the right, in the middle, and in the extremities." "Well, I got to change my book." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Whatever." I said, you're writing long before there should ever be any publication of this." I said, "You're telling people stuff that simply is not accurate." So, long story short, as I was his mentor for about 3 or 4 years, and we split up, and he did his own thing, and some of his work pretty good. Some of it I didn't like it all. I didn't think much of it. Some of it, the last case or two, he had patient 17. Good case. I like that. But anyway, so went further with the other alien implants. In the case, I went to India, removed objects from a lady in India and through a hospital there. And I'm telling you, it's absolutely astounding case. I just floored by the abduction history of this lady and her family, and it's scary stuff. Fascinating, but out of 27 surgical interventions, we moved up well over 30 objects, but not all of the objects that we remove are alien, in my opinion. They're alien to the people who are abductees, and they think because they have an object in, like, okay, if somebody's got an object in their hand or wrist, and they get an X-ray and say, "Oh my God, look at that! It looks like a RFID chip. That's an alien implant." And I laughed and I said, "Did you ever fight with sharpened pencils in school?" Yeah, I got struck me right there in the hand. I said, "That's called graphite." I said, "It's not an alien implant. Doesn't matter if you're abducted or not." I said, "No, it's an alien implant." So listen to me carefully. So I'm not here to get beat up or to cause problems. I'm just here to tell you that for me to consider something to be an alien implant requires a great deal of criteria. Number one, your events, the medical consistency that we're looking at, and the proper removal, and the whole process has to be followed from the medical to scientific. And I said, even then, until it's out, examined, and looked at, we still don't know what's alien. And we have to judge from that point. If we removed it, did all this, removed it, and found out it was graphite, it's probably from a pencil. I mean, it's just that simple. That doesn't make it alien just because you're an abductee.
Yeah.
The important thing that your audience should take away is that alien implants are extremely rare. And everybody that's an abductee or seen a UFO, they think they've got an alien implant. That is simply not true. I look at hundreds of X-rays every year, and I assure you, the majority of them, 99% of them, are not alien implants. We just know that. But when we do take cases, and I do have 100 cases, if I had the money, I could pick out of 100 cases right now and take 10 of them to surgery in a week. I mean, it's that simple. And how many of them are actually alien? We don't know until we actually get them out and look at it. We have to look at the biology, because the biology of the implant is, in my opinion, more important than the object itself. Everybody wants to know, is the object extraterrestrial? As NIDS wanted to know the very same thing, the National Institute for Discovery Science, Bob Bigelow's organization. Well, is that extraterrestrial object? And that's, well, of course they are. I think they turned out to be meteoric in origin from a rare Wedman-Staten or Yaochung meteorite that they're so rare they want to know where I got them. And of course, we didn't tell them it came from a human body wrapped in the person's own skin, so that there'd be no inflammatory response, either chronic or acute. We didn't tell them any of that. We didn't want them to know about that. We wanted a double-blinded study. We wanted it as clean as possible, and that was my conditions for NIDS. If they did the study and paid for it, I wanted a blinded study there so that no one would know anything about that. So that's the bottom line on the implants. One thing I should say about the implants is we have found some of them are a plastic-like material. Some of them, we found 4 of them in I didn't find, his doctor found 4 of them tic-tac size in a row in the tendon of his knee. He and his girlfriend were camping at the Area 51 area, and he gets up in the middle of the night, and she noticed him rattling around. They were in 2 tents, or buddies, a guy and a girl, and she heard him rattling around in his tent, and he came back about an hour or so later, stumbling on the rocks, and she said, "What is the matter with you?" He said, I don't know. Well, where have you been? I don't know.
Hmm.
It's like an abductee. You know, he's got a he doesn't have a clue. He just doesn't know. So his knee bothered him so bad, they took him to the doctor next day, and they said, you got 4 tic-tac size objects lined up in a row in the tendon of your knee. And the surgeon, who was a specialist, said, those are not calcifications. I don't know what they are. I don't want to know what they are. But when I remove them, I don't want to see you again. Now that fascinating stuff.
Hmm.
I have 3 of those objects, and they're plastic-like material. I've never seen anything like them. But there's no technology in these things. And as I've said before, some of them are metallic that we find. Some of them are, we did find one, believe it or not, an RFID chip. A guy from a restaurant in San Francisco sent me an RFID chip and said, Mr. Sims, this came out of a steak that I prepared, a swordfish steak. And the client bit into it and said, what is that? And I said, well, it's an RFID chip for fish. They insert them in fish to find out information about the fish. And I said, it's not an alien implant, if that's what you're asking. He said, well, that's important. I said, yeah, we're clear on that. It's RFID chip, no question about
it. And what about the rumor? Whitley talks about the one tree with his ear, and that it was moving around, and they didn't want it out. And what's all that about? They're moving around. They're hard to remove. To talk about those kind of rumors that you hear.
Well, I'm glad you used the word rumor, because that's what it is. The problem with a lot of the things in the UFO community is that a lot of people don't document them very well. I know this, or I said that, or I think this. That kind of doesn't mean a whole lot. We need something. It's like Dr. Gary Nolan says, if we can't replicate it in the lab, I don't really care. I mean, the lab's going to tell us the story about what it is or isn't. And I can respect that. I really can. But there are rumors that some of these implants appear to move. And I'm not arguing that, yay or nay, because I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know all of it. But I was at several, Willie was at a couple of surgeries we did, and because we could see him looking in the window in the OR while we were working on the patient. I'm a hypnotic anesthesia therapist, and that's a fancy term for your audience to understand that I do hypnotic anesthesia. Generally, hypnosis states when a person's in a good state of somnambulism or good hypnotic trance, they're in alpha, beta, and theta. Well, theta is a state where you really want them for memory recovery and that sort of thing. The alien will often use the theta and then the delta state on you. When they tell you you won't remember anything, they put that large black eye next to yours. You don't, because you go into delta and you don't remember much of anything, and that's generally the case. But the fact is that when I'm working with a person's surgical intervention, I'll normally put them in a state called SDALE, which is basically a delta level state, so that they don't have to have any anesthesia for the surgical intervention.
Do you do the hypnotherapy stuff with clients? I just had somebody yesterday who was out of North Dakota who was coming to me looking for recovery of memories that he doesn't really know, but they're disturbing him. Do you do that kind of stuff?
I have, and one of the famous hypnotists in the UFO realm. I spoke at Roswell 23 years in a row, and one of the things I did was host the abduction panel. And one of the abduction people, workers there, came early, and she said, she was a hypnotherapist. She said, "You're a hypnotherapist too, aren't you, Derrel?" And I said, "Well, that's a rumor." And she laughed and says, "Well, I'm a certified hypnotherapist." I said, "Well, I'm glad for you. Thank you." And she says, "Well, what are you?" And I said, "Well, we're not really sure, but it's growing at an alarming rate." And so we laughed together, and I said, "I'm a master hypnotherapist." She said, "What's that?" I said, "Someone certified you, didn't they?" She said, "Well, of course they did." I said, "I'm the kind of guy that does that." I said, I'm also a master hypnotherapist. I'm a medical hypnotherapist. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm also a hypnotic anesthesia therapist. What does that mean? I said, that means we can take you to surgery and do surgical intervention so that you don't have to sign your life away on a anesthesia form. If you've ever seen those, that they basically, you're signing your life away. You may not recover and you could die. And it's not their fault, so to speak. You just signed it away when you signed that.
Yeah.
So I said, the nice thing about hypnotic anesthesia in the cases with these abductees I worked with, they recover 3 to 5 times faster. There's no ill effects whatsoever, and they heal up very quickly. And it's a good procedure for those that want it and are good for it.
So if somebody needed help, you could deal, but does he have to come to you, or can you do it?
Well, they generally speaking, it's better to do this in person for a number of reasons. Number one, I listen to people's, they always want to tell me their story over the phone. And I said, well, that's fine, but I have to write it down. And I said, I have to write it down just like you said it. I would prefer you write it and send it to me and me question you. Why is that? That's because your linguistic patterns are extremely important. I said, the next thing we're going to do after you fill out our 40-page questionnaire is I'm going to look at your handwriting. I'm a handwriting analyst, and I'm going to look to see if you have propensity to exaggerate, lie, or do other things. That's going to show up in your handwriting. And on top of that, we're going to have you draw 6 little pictures, which we call symbolic profile drawings. And that's going to tell me a lot about your character and a lot about experiences and things about you in your life, not even alien related. It may be alien related, but we have a whole system to do that. So I generally provide people with a questionnaire like that. And a lot of times they'll write back and say, my God, it's like you're reading my mail. How do you know all this stuff? That's because I'm one of you. That's why. I've already been there a long time ago. You're new to the game.
Talk about the power of the mind.
I will advise them, though. I will advise them, and I'll help them in ways that I can. And sometimes I have someone near them that I can refer them to. But generally speaking, if the case is super good, I'll handle it myself or use one of my trained people for it. The reason is, it's like I told one lady, she said, why don't have you had anyone to work on you for your memory recovery? I said, well, first of all, I remember a lot of what happened. I said, I'll explain how that happened. But the most important thing, I said, if I may say this without offending you, I said, I work on your brain. You don't work on mine. I know what I'm capable of. I have no idea what you're capable of. I said, many of you hypnotists don't know the difference between memory and recall. And when you hypnotize somebody and you hypnotize their screen memory, not the actual memory, but the screen memory, you're going to get a confabulation that's going to sound great. And they're going to say the alien's here to save the planet, fix those on hold, do all kinds of wonderful things. This is what's going on. That's not what happened in that event. And anybody with half a brain knows better.
So the bottom line would be what are the beings doing? What's the ultimate purpose of this? And maybe give me a number. What there's always these numbers floating around about how many people are experiencers, whether it's increasing or decreasing. Go through that.
Sure. Great questions, Grant. I love it when smart people interview me. They make me look intelligent. Thank you. The stats are this, generally speaking. Could I have people come up to conferences and they'll tell me the alien abductions are all slowed down, the grays are on the run. So, what kind of medication are you on? I said, where do you hear this stuff? I said, I've got over 10,000 people that I've interviewed over the years and 2,000 open cases worldwide. How do you know all this stuff? And I'm having all kinds of cases pop up all the time, and you're saying they're all stopped. Somebody forgot to tell the alien this. So maybe you need to get out there and inform them. Anyway, the phenomenon is continuing as we speak. And there are 3 kinds of people that have these experiences. The first group of people are, and I don't begrudge any of them, believe me, I don't, and I don't care what a person's viewpoint is, that's your business. That's between you and the alien. Y'all can decide that. But the first group of people are abductees like me. They got taken without permission and they didn't like it. I mean, they got kidnapped, basically, literally taken from their home or car, wherever they're at, and whatever happened, happened. And if you didn't like it, you become what we call an abductee. You got abducted. If you go through the experience and you accept the screen memory that the alien gives you, we're here to save the planet, big seal don't hold. We're gonna do all these wonderful, great things to your planet, none of which they've done yet, but they're going to eventually, they say. And if you buy into that and you like it, you become a contactee, and that's okay too. But the third group of people, and I worked with one of these a couple of years ago. This was fascinating. These are people that don't know they've had an event, period. They don't, I mean, good, bad, or, in fact, one lady came to me, she's an engineer. She said, I've been with your senior investigator, a friend of mine, and she said, I went through your abduction questionnaire and all that, and 33 out of 35 of those markers fit me. I said, okay. She said, I think you're full of bull. I said, okay. Did that bother you? I said, not in the least. I said, I can't make you an abductee or not make you an abductee. I can't do anything. Whatever has happened to you or didn't happen, that's it. I can't affect that one way or the other. 2 years later, she came to me in Arizona, out in Phoenix, and she says, Derrel, please work with me. I said, are you sure you want to do this? And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, you're probably in between the abductee, the contactee thing. She said, what does that mean? I said, if your events are real, and I don't know they are yet, but if they are real, you're going to open Pandora's box here, and I'm asking you as a friend, don't do that. She said, I got to know. I said, you're a scientist. I get it. I get it. I had to know. So I began to work with her, and I went, and as soon as I was sure I had her in memory perfectly, then I popped her into the event. And 5 years old, aliens taking her inside a ship. There's a cow being mutilated in the right room. The cow's still alive. It's bellowing, screaming as they're mutilating it. And they carry her on through. And that's the first thing she saw as a 5-year-old girl. Just mortified her. I worked with her for 2 hours, and she finally opened her eyes and said, and tears all over her face, and said, oh my God, how could I not know that? I said, because there's an alien app they give each and every one of us. And the app is you will destroy, ignore, or hide your evidence. I said, it works on me, it works on everybody to some degree. And I said, we have to learn how to break that app. And I said, in your case, you accepted the full thing, and that's why you don't remember anything. They popped you into Delta state, and we basically don't have a memory. And I know how to get past the block. I know what's happened to you. And she just cried like a baby. I met her and her husband the other night for dinner here in Houston, when they came in from Phoenix. And she said, I just want to thank you for helping me with in my case some time ago. My husband thinks we're all nuts. I said, they all do. So I said, until they get picked up. Then the reality changes. I said, but that's okay. I said, I still wished you hadn't done that. And she said, well, I'm going to tell you something I never told anybody, but my husband knows about it. I said, just feel free, tell me the truth, sweetie. Never going to give your name out to anybody. She said, something's happened, and we don't know why, but a tumor is formed in my head. I said, do you think that's a result of carcinogens or some chemicals or something like that out there in the environment or something? She said, I don't know. But my suspicion is that someone else may have been involved in that. And I said, well, I can't help you with that because I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I do know we have several people, pilots in particular, out of South America, who were abducted and ended up with tumors And one of them became legally blind out in California. Got the case very well documented. I said, but most of the time, most of us come back from our events not really worse for wear. You know, we were okay, you know, a little shocked because of what happened, but with that sort of thing, I said, it's very rare for us to have these cases of human mutilations or animal mutilation. That by and large is very, very. And I said, and the idea of the alien affecting us in some way, like a tumor or something, although that has happened, I'm not sure they did it on purpose or it was a result of what they were doing. I don't know. We just don't have enough data to say. And I said, I don't know how to respond to you, Speedy. I don't know what to tell you. She said, my point is, my husband married me anyway, and he knows the problem. And she said, I can hardly use my fingers. I can hardly, so I'm losing it. And I don't know what to do. And I said, well, if you come back through Houston, or if I see you out in Phoenix, I want to work with you on a medical level. I said, I think I can probably help you. I don't know what I can fix, so to speak, but I think I can help you a good deal, and I'll be glad to do it. I said, all the work that we do for abductees in this phenomenon is, whenever I'm out in the field working, when I have a case and everything, I said, we care about the people. I said, you know, I'm one of you. I get it. I know what you've gone through. I don't have to buy into abduction or contacteeism. It doesn't matter. I already know what happened, regardless of which event occurred to. And I said, so, but by and large, for most people out there, the good news is most of us don't come back worse for wear, so to speak. We're going to be okay.
Wow. You mentioned the mind. What's the connection? You seem to have gone pretty far down understanding how the mind works, memory works. What is the UFO community missing in terms of the importance of this part to the mystery?
Oh, you've opened Pandora's box this time.
Because everybody's sort of into the nuts and bolts, you know, just give me the craft,
That's true. I'll give you the short version. We've done some, I've used some of my skills in the CIA, the trade craft, as we call it, the trade craft. And I've used it through abductees on the alien. In other words, when they were abducted, I would have them do certain things that I wanted done. Since they're not getting me, I want them to test some of the things out I want to know on the alien to see the effects of it. One of the people that we worked with, a lady here in Houston, Texas, she's now deceased. From years ago, she smoked like a freight train, and it finally killed her, I think. But the bottom line is that she wanted to defend herself. She said, they're going to come after my children. They told me that. They said, if I give you any more information, they're going to get my kids. I said, sweetie, do you think they're going to get your kids anyway? She said, yes. I said, what difference does it matter? And I said, I'm just being practical here. And I said, we're getting more and better physical evidence from you than we are all of our abductees at one time, all of them. That's how good your case is. I mean, you're just golden. And she cried and cried, oh, please help me. I've got to defend myself. And I said, I'm going to do that because from a human point of view, I have to do that. I have to give you what you want, what you need, or what you think you need. I wouldn't qualify much of a human if I didn't. I said, so I will do that. And there was an airline pilot, a captain with an airline that was taking hypnotherapy from me at the time. And this guy, very straight, real type A personality. I mean, he was in tears listening to her. So that's how compelling her story was to him. And so I gave her certain skills for her next abduction and her encounter and how to supersede what the alien was doing. And long story short, she tore his black eye cover off. Tore it loose the first time. Second time, she tore it completely off. I wanted her to bring the eye cover back so I could have it. So we basically could see that Freddy Krueger, that the dream is true and that you got Freddy Krueger's hat. And she did get the eye cover off, but there were 5 aliens present and they one got on each finger. They pried the thing out of her hand. But she told the absolute truth about that. And even the people I've interviewed, and I've got cases on record that no one has about Roswell. And even one of the people that was at the part of the autopsy interview and a part of that stuff that they haven't interviewed, I've got him on film, and he says the eye covers were, in fact, there were just a lens over the eye. I said, I've known that forever. I said, they use that to see an infrared, ultraviolet, visible light, and X-ray at the same time. For the abductees, when they're on the table, they say, it was like I was being scanned, like they could see right into me. They did. They were doing that. And it's not like magic. There are scientists working on lenses for doctors right now in surgery to do almost the same thing.
Wow. So the alien autopsy, there's some truth to this thing about the like from the alien autopsy. What did you think of that? Was
okay. The alien autopsy, the movie. First of all, I interviewed the original guy who had the alien autopsy film, and Reg Presley, the singer, Wow thing and all that. Well, I stayed at his home numerous times.
Wow.
In England, and he took me to. He said, I'm having a birthday party, and he said the guy that has the alien autopsy film before it got out, he said they're all going to have a party for me, and it's a restaurant. And I'm going to take you and your friend down there, and I said, I want you to seat me right next to him. He said, Derrel, I know what you're thinking. He said he'll never ever give you that film, ever, any of it, not any of it. It's never going to happen. He's already told me 1,000 times. I offered to buy it, he will not sell it. And I said, that's what they'll say. And I sat down next to him and talked to him. The next time I came to England, he had a courier bring me several clips of the film that I still have of the actual alien autopsy, the actual film itself. And my point in saying that is that evidence is really important to me. That's when I reviewed the film, I recognized that, and I didn't tell anybody this because I'm not interested in debunking people and going after them. I don't care about all that. What I care about is the evidence. And what I saw in the film is that the man's a fraud. My job as a private investigator, one of the things I did besides bounty hunting is going after financial theft and things like that. And the man's a fraud. And he was. And later, a TV program did a show on it and proved he was 100% fraud. And he knew it all along. He knew the film was fake. It didn't make any difference. People presented it as if it was absolutely 100% real. But now the real question isn't, was that film fake? Of course it was. The real question is, was there an alien autopsy that we didn't get to see? Well, of course there was. Yes. And there are witnesses to that. And in fact, we're looking over some evidence right now. Me and my team of doctors are looking over some biological evidence that we have no opinion yet. But the fascination with it is that it was leaked autopsy from a high level of the government, supposedly. But again, that's suspect to me too. So we'll look at it very carefully, and these people are very qualified to make their determination. I am not. That's not that forte. I use my medical hat, and they're part of my medical hat, so to speak, to do that. But yes, there are alien autopsies. This has been done before. We have people in the UFO community that claims they were involved in 100 alien autopsies. You're full of bull. I don't believe not one word of that. Not one word. However, I do have some film footage and some clips and things like that, snapshots of autopsies by something that's clearly not human. And in my opinion, it's not even alien. It's actually a hybrid. There are two different hybrids and a human being. And the intelligence community provided that information to a professor. And the way we got it was when the intelligence guys get bored with looking at all this stuff, they just go get coffee or whatever. And this was done in a very secret building. Well, the guy had a second roll of film. And he put that in his secret stuff. So when he died, it was his insurance policy in case he needed it. And well, we got it. And he's deceased, but the film is there. And it is startling. So the answer to your question is, yes, there have been some alien autopsies. There's been autopsies for sure. And a lot of it is questionable, in my opinion, because of the nature of how some of these autopsies were done. Some of the entities weren't dead, in my opinion.
Wow. But the clips you got, were they from the, because the story was that he had pieces of film and they recreated it with other film. The pieces you have, is that from the fake part, or is that claimed that it was part of the piece? And another question was Reg Presley. Was he an experiencer as well?
Reg Presley, in all likelihood, may have been an experiencer. I did not. He didn't confess to me that. Although, are you ready for this? Many people on radio shows that interview me are and have had experiences and don't want anybody to know, and that's why I just don't tell anybody anything. But my point in saying that is not to be coy, but simply to let people know that you're not alone. I have intelligence agents. I got 3 people that are NASA engineers that are abductees. I don't care if you're a housewife, a carpenter, a scientist, it makes no difference. Whenever they come after you, they're coming after you. It doesn't make any difference. And some abductees that I don't know why the alien chooses them, because I can't figure out how they find food. I mean, they're not that bright. You think they're coming after geniuses and stuff like that. No, it's the whole lot. They're after the whole thing. There are at least 7 reasons why I think the alien are picking people up. At least 7, and if that'll help. Yeah. I told this at Dr. Carla Turner was alive at the time, and she was in a meeting in the UFO conference, and she listened to my presentation, her and her husband, and Michael Lindemann was present at the time. And he said, best damn presentation I ever heard. And I said, that's only because you haven't spoken yet. He said, no, he said, it really wasn't that good. I said, okay. So I stood up and I told people in my little workshop there, I said, I'm going to tell you some things you may not know. I said, I'm not a parrot. I don't like parroting things back and forth to people that they've heard 900 times in a row. I'm not here to be your parrot. I'm going to tell you things you don't know. And now you're going to look at me like a calf looking at a new gate, or you're going to think I'm an absolute 100% fraud because you haven't heard this stuff before. I said, in 10 years, come back and talk to me again. We'll have another conversation. I said, there are at least 6 reasons they're taking. There may be 100. I don't know all of them. I don't know everything. I wished I did. But here are 6 that I'm comfortable with. Now, this was in 1993, I think, just before Candy passed away, Dr. Carla Turner. And I said, there are 6 reasons. I said, one of the first 2 are science and technical. I said, they don't care how smart you are in science. They don't care how technical you are in your technical field. They could care less. They know more than you do. You're not going to teach them anything. You're not going to share technology. Forget it, clown. It's not going to happen. That's not what that's about. I said, if you think that, you've already missed the barn by 15 yards. Forget it. I said, they're interested in, and let me put all 6 of them down, and then I'll tell you the ground rule. I said, the second group is spiritual and psychical. I didn't say religious and psychical. I said spiritual and psychical. I said, they don't care about Billy Graham, one of the top spiritual leaders in the country. They don't care about Gene Dixon, the top psychic in the country at the time. They're not interested. Why didn't they abduct them? They don't care. They're not interested in that. They're interested in something else, which I will get to in the next two. The third group, I said, is the one I belong to, where people who learn psychological or physiological things with little or no training. And this lady stood up in the middle of the crowd and screamed to the height of her voice, "Prove it!" And I said, well, that's kind of hard to do, you know, in the middle of everybody. I said, but I like a challenge. I thank you for your question. She is screaming. Boy, people are mad at her. And I said, at the time, I have a 3rd-degree black belt in the martial arts. Lots of people got black belts in the martial arts. So what? And I said, well, it's not like Taekwondo where you can pay for your belt in advance. I said, this is Kyokushinkai karate. I said, the master of our school killed bulls with left and right punches. I said, do you have a clue what I'm talking about? And she got a little bit quiet. So what else? And I said, you're missing the point. I said, you didn't let me finish my statement. And she said, what's that? I said, I've never had a teacher. Now, you go out and try to get a black belt on your own, first level, on your own, by yourself, no teacher. It can't be done. Anybody with a brain will tell you that. I'm a 3rd-degree black belt under Masayama's system. And now I'm a 4th then, and still hadn't had a teacher. It's really funny. I said, it's not that I'm particularly smart or brilliant, or it's not, doesn't mean that. If you throw ego into this, you miss the whole point. And I would just be making it up. That's just, it's not it. I said, what the alien is interested in is you don't process data in those 6 fields like almost anybody does. It's not that you're bigger, better, taller. It doesn't mean that. To the alien, it means something, not to the rest of the world. The rest of the world could care less. They don't care if you got straight A's in school. It doesn't matter. And anyway, and I'll give you another example in a minute, but she screamed again. She said, prove it. And I said, well, I said, I have a master's level in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I'm a hypnotic anesthesia therapist, master hypnotherapist. I said, some people think that I'm actually really good at what I do. And I said, when we get into that surgical operating room, you better believe that too.
Yeah, no kidding.
I said, because if I'm a fake in any way, you're going to be the first one to know it. When that surgeon cuts on you with that knife, and I'm not able to do what you think I'm supposed to do. So anyway, she started screaming again, and I said, I kind of had enough of your nonsense, and I think the crowd has as well. They're all clapping. And I said, I'm going to do something for you I've never done for anybody. I said, I like a challenge. I said, if the hotel will allow it, I said, we'll build a fire out here, and I'll show you how the fire works. She said, well, Tony Robbins teaches that. I said, sweetie, I taught myself firewalking when I was 14 years old. Tony Robbins was in diapers when I did that. You're missing the whole entire message. I said, if they won't let us do that, I said, I'm sure there are enough people drinking around here. We'll take their whiskey bottles and beer bottles and so on, break them, and make a huge, long pallet of glass out there, about 4 foot wide. And I will run over it, jump on it, roll over it, and do all kinds of fun things. And then I'll have you do the same thing. Well, I don't know how to do that. And I said, I will transfer my ability to you to do it. Do you want to play? She sat down. I mean, Carla Turner laughed her head off. She said, about time you got her. So man, everybody hated her. I said she follows people around and does that all the time at conferences. But anyway, one last illustration. A friend of mine, the guy we did second surgery on, in the hand with moving an object out of his hand. Well, he said he dresses literally like overalls. He looks like Grizzly Adams. Well, ain't nothing special about me. I'm just an apartment manager, and to fix and repairing stuff around apartments. And I said, Pat, you go feed that garbage to somebody else. You're a computer genius, and I know it, and you're self-taught. In fact, what we found out, I found out as of this year, now Pat's deceased now, but I found out as of this year that the intelligence people used to come pick him up and take him to do certain experiments that he learned from his abduction account whenever he got his implant. And they went out and applied some of the math and the physics to the 3 intertwining Moebius strips that he had discussed, which was part of the craft's mechanism for power. And according to the report that I got, they put a bolt or a projectile of some kind in this device. When they cranked it up and fired it, they found the projectile 21 miles away after it shot clean through the concrete wall of the building. That's called a railgun in some experiences, but the point is that that's all based on his work alone, and he's just a apartment repairman. Really? I don't think so. He processes data different than other people. That's why the intelligence community got their eyeballs on him. That's why they want to know all about whatever weird stuff he's doing. They could care less about the alien. They wanted his tech. They want to know how is it that you do what you do when other people are not doing that? How does that happen? So in my opinion, those are the 6 primary reasons they're picking you up.
Wow. Fascinating. I mean, this cruise is going to be worth just watching you. You're a pretty entertaining guy. Like,
well, I'll tell that to my wife. If only she believed all of that.
So wrapping up a bit, like, how big is your team, and where are you going with this thing?
Oh, a great question. How big is our team? Well, we had 4 new doctors sign up 2 months ago, and some of them out of Colombia, some of them out of a cardiovascular surgeon came on board out of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Wow. He heads up the Academy of Cardiovascular Surgery, and they awarded me a special Bachelor of Science degree certificate. I don't know why. I gave a presentation to them and to the people in Switzerland and scientists and techs all about implants on their level, not a UFO, let's have some fun level, but from their level on what these things do and how and so on, more of the technical aspect of it and medical aspect. And they were quite impressed with it. And I provided them PowerPoint in Spanish. So they really liked that because it went out to most of the Spanish speaking peoples there. And anyway, we've had a great success with bringing people on our team. I'm hoping that eventually we'll get Gary Nolan and Avi Loeb interested in our work as well, because I'm definitely in the fringe part of it. As one MIT professor from NIDS told me once, he said, how do you see yourself? And I said, well, I see myself as a pioneer. And he said, what's a pioneer? And I said, well, sir, a pioneer is someone who will go where others can't go, won't go, or terrified to go. And then he sends back maps. He laughed and said, what kind of maps would those be? I said, maps for scared men in academia to use without fear of losing their careers, sir. And then I said, now I've told you that. I said, I want to know what you think of it. So that's kind of more important than what I think. He said, well, you're not a pioneer. He said, there are 4 levels of civilization. He said, pioneer is 2nd level. He said, there aren't any pioneers in the UFO world. He said, in my opinion, he said, it's my opinion. He said, he's a tenured professor at MIT and still is. And he said, you're the first, what was the term he used? You're the first explorer. He said, exploration is the first level of civilization. He said, I don't think we have much of a clue what's going on out there. He said, your discovery of fluorescence alone on the abductees deserves a scientific paper, and I'll help you write it if you want to do it. So I'm pretty impressed with that guy. He's I'm not much, but he's pretty hot stuff.
Yeah, well, that's like Gary Nolan mentioned that as well. I'm not interested in the 95% that falls inside the bell curve. I'm interested in the 5% outside the bell curve. That's when the Nobel Prizes are.
Brilliant. Well,
Wow.
last thing I can tell you is one of the a Nobel laureate came to me and said, Mr. Sims, he said, your work in this discovery of non-inflammatory response in the alien phenomena, he said, and with the implants, he said, if you can replicate that, or anyone can in a laboratory, if you provide that, the biological sample, he said, you may have a Nobel laureate prize right now. And I said, why do you think that? And he said, because I knew, but he said, because organ donor rejection would be passé at that point. And I said, well, I was born at night, sir, and I was born in Texas, but it wasn't last night. What laboratory do you think I could send this to that I could trust? And he said, not one.
Yeah.
I said, that's why I still have it. Like I said, it's in Texas, and it was at night, but not last night.
Excellent. You mentioned at the beginning of the interview your 6-year-old son. Did you end that? And can you talk about that? Can you stop this
Certainly.
phenomena?
It's difficult to stop the phenomena dead in its tracks. There are all kinds of people that have magical ways to do that. It's not been that successful, in my opinion. My event stopped violently at age 17, and that worked. With my son, they came and got him when he was 6 years old. I woke up in the middle of the night because you can sense, if you're a real abductee, you can sense when they're coming.
Yeah.
And I was shaking. I mean, I've been here before. I hadn't been there since I was 17, but I knew they were here. And I ran down the hallway in the dark, past my son's room, because I knew he wasn't even in his room. I knew my daughter was, but he wasn't. I knew they'd gotten him. And found him in the dining room, and he was looking out the glass door in the back. And I stood there watching him for a long time because he doesn't sleepwalk, nothing like that whatsoever. Never done hypnosis, nothing. He's just a perfect, amazingly sharp kid. If there's a sharp knife in the drawer, he's definitely it.
Yeah.
And I finally asked him, I said, what are you looking at? And he said, the little red light out there. Well, that's a screen movie. That's left so that they can erase the rest of it. And long story short, he constructed the second worst part of the story is my wife walked in. She looked at him, looked at me, and said, what's going on? I'd never told her I was an abductee.
Wow.
Now I have to belly up to the bar and tell her the whole story. So the next night, my son, unbeknownst to me, made a crossbow with a broadhead arrow sticking right at the door. So if anybody opened that door again, like they did the night before, they're going to get impaled with the arrow. And that's some of the levels that some of these people go to get out of their abduction, because they remembered what it was, not the screen memory, not the, I have wonderful drops of consciousness falling upon me and it made me feel so great. That wasn't his experience. Yeah. And as a result, it wrecked a lot of his life. It really did. But by and large, that doesn't happen to everybody. It doesn't, and I don't want to give people a sense that everybody has UFO experiences. They're all traumatized, messed up for their life. That's just not true. But some people are worse for wear. They really are, and he was one of them.
Wow. Whereabouts are you? You're lecturing on the cruise, and I can guarantee you we have a little section with tables. I'll be at your table every time listening to your stories. You're one of those fascinating people I ever met in my life. It's like, wow.
Yeah, you're one of the people I want to be at your table, sitting on it, listening to good advice from you.
Yeah,
I know you. You're going to be a star out there. You already are, but people are going to find out what you're really like, and that it's going to be a wonderful cruise. It really will. Wow.
Is there any place else you're lecturing this year that people can maybe catch you?
Yes, I'll be in Phoenix on July the 16th, 17th, 18th, I think it is. June. I'll be doing a MUFON conference here with my wife. We'll go there, and then we'll go to Sedona. I'll be working with some abductees there as well, police officers and other people. then I'm going to do my European tour again. I went to Scotland, Manchester, England, did a big conference there. Went to Istanbul, Turkey, did conferences there. Went to Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe, and then back. And that was the European tour last year. This year, I may go to Manchester again, but I'll definitely go to Rome, do a conference there on my European tour, and then I'll go to Istanbul again, do some conference work there. Probably go back to Cappadocia and maybe Karahan Tepe again.
Wow. Well, thank you for joining me, and I'm absolutely thrilled to. I'll have to now go back and find all your lectures and your interviews and find out all the other stuff, because you told a lot of stuff I've never heard before. I'm just fascinated, and thank you very much for joining me. And hopefully we can do this again soon, because you are one of the people I think people should be listening to.
Yeah, well, my wife said if only my wife thought as much of me as you did. No, I always tease her about that. We tease each other all the time. But
is your wife
you're a great
into it?
man.
Because you always have the phenomena where the other half could care less. I mean, like, is she supportive of what you're doing?
The wonderful thing about her, she listens to everything I say, and she can. I took her to Manchester because she doesn't go to the conferences all the time with me because there's no point in it.
Yeah.
But when she went to Manchester, I sat over the side and just sat like this. And she described every implant, every medical and scientific device in there, in my huge box of alien artifacts that I'll bring on the ship.
Yeah.
And she could sit there and tell you as good as. And so I said, you really bothered me. She said, why is that? She's just a little tiny tyke. Yeah. And I said, it's pretty bad when you get outshot with your own gun. And I said, and you just do it real well. So everybody, they'll love her. She's a trip. She's a lot of fun.
Beautiful. Looking forward to it. Okay. Thank you, Derrel. Yes, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Very good. Anytime you're ready, let me know.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.